Hello, all, and welcome back to a new episode of Movies and Us, a weekly gathering place filled with conversations about movies, stories, and connection. My name is Jennifer Hahn.
And I'm Sarah Callan.
And today we are so thrilled, so excited to be talking about the film Two People Exchanging Saliva. And we are joined by two very special guests, the brains and the hearts that have created this story and this film and brought it to life. Natalie Musteata and Alexandre Singh, the co-writers and directors for Two People Exchanging Saliva. Welcome to the pod, you both.
Oh, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you. We're so happy to be here.
Yeah.
We've watched other interviews that you guys have done, so we're fans.
Oh, thank you. Well, we're so thrilled to talk about this film and hear so much more about the kind of behind the scenes and the creative process of bringing this to life. This is truly a fresh story. Just to share a little bit more about Two People Exchanging Saliva before we dive fully in. So it is shortlisted for Best Live Action Short this year at the Oscars. More than well-deserved, one of 15 that are in this exciting period of time. I want to actually read the full premise and kind of about summary for the film. Sometimes we kind of keep it at a high level, but I actually think all these details are so essential to understanding and driving the intrigue for this. So, in a society where kissing is punishable by death and people pay for things by receiving slaps to the face, Anjine, an unhappy woman, shops compulsively in a department store. There, she becomes fascinated by a playful salesgirl. Despite the prohibition of kissing, the two become close, raising the suspicions of a jealous colleague. Now that is very juicy. So there's so many important themes in this short film. To kind of quote both of you in previous interviews, it's a story about a world where violence is casual and intimacy is absent. This film is about desire, longing, yearning, and affection. It's about the haves and have-nots. And set in this dystopian world, it really lets us look at the absurdist things in this world and also kind of take a new, fresh set of eyes into the world around us as well. So we're excited to talk about the specifics of the film itself and how you brought this to life. But first, we'd love to hear a little bit more about the both of you and kind of your journey to into this world of film and this medium specifically. I think there's some really great backstories for both of you on how you fell into film.
Yeah. So Alex and I both come from the visual arts. My background is as an art historian and a curator and a writer. And Alex?
My background is a visual artist. I've been a visual artist for nearly 20 years now.
Don't date us.
Okay. But just a little while. Yeah. And we've had like full careers in visual art. And I think certainly for me, but I think also for you, the visual art that we were interested in always had a storytelling or narrative bent. We were always trying to get that in there, but we always dreamt about and hankered after cinema and specifically sort of character-led stories.
Yeah, I mean, when we met, which was well over a decade now, all we did from the very first minute was talk about film, and we've always been so aligned. It's funny because we sometimes bring different films to the table, but we feel the exact same way about them. And so, you know, actually from like the very first day that we were together, Alex was like, I think rather than talking about films or writing about films, we should try and make films.
Yeah. I feel like the critic in Ratatouille, he says that, you know, it's one thing to criticize, you know, the film, but to make it is something completely different.
Well, you know, it was a long journey. And from day one, we just started reading screenwriting books and film production books.
So we were quite lucky in the sense that today you can learn a lot about filmmaking without going to film school. There are so many resources. You can listen to directors talking on podcasts about their process and glean little nuggets about how they work and take what resonates with you.
But there were two reasons why we really, I mean, beyond just our like cinephilia and our love of cinema, there are two reasons that we really wanted to make film. One of which is the fact that film is an art form that encompasses all other art forms. I mean, it is like the most incredible thing where you have production, you have like installation, production design, you have costumes, you have music, you have writing and storytelling. And all of these things have to come together to tell one story.
Like one of the things I really brought home to me in making this film is that typography and graphic design are a very important part of filmmaking. Not many people talk about that, but a lot of typography is built into the film. Like the typography you'll see on the posters is built into the thought process even before the film is made.
Yeah.
So if you're very curious about everything in the world, it's a really wonderful medium. And then I think the second thing
is the relationship between film and an audience. And it feels like such a sacred relationship and a very unique one, because coming from the visual arts, I feel like a lot of work in a museum is very divorced from its audience. No matter how popular it is, it actually doesn't really matter how much an audience loves it, whether or not it's going to be a successful artwork, oddly enough. Whereas with film, like the success of a film lives and dies with its audience. It's a contract that you're entering where you're saying, please sit down for however many minutes this film is, and I'm going to transport you, and it will have been worth your time and the money, and it's just it feels like a very special relationship. And so we just always wanted to make something that was very, as odd as our film is, we did make it with a lot of generosity, or intention of having generosity towards the audience, and a lot of love for a cinema going public. So those were, some of the things that led us in. And over years, we wrote, many bad screenplays before we arrived at this moment. And, really, took the first opportunity that we had to make a film, which is how this came to be.
Which is why it's 36 minutes long.
Yeah, it was not strategic. Seeing as we didn't go to film school, we did not know that making a 36-minute short was not very common and strategic. Yeah. We were like, why are there so many films that are 14 minutes and 59 seconds? Yeah. And apparently that's the Cannes maximum length for a short film. Yeah. So now we've gleaned a lot of things in the process, but we made the film that we wanted to make, and luckily it's touched a lot of people, and it's worked out. It's had a good life.
And that sacred relationship between the filmmakers and the audience is totally honored in every 36 minutes of this film. So it honestly flies by because you're just so sucked into this story. So well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you can just feel that love in this film. So we've learned about your journey from visual arts to filmmaking, but why this film? Why two people exchanging saliva? How did this story and this kind of world come about?
Yeah. I mean, we have always loved absurdist style storytelling as a way to reflect back like our own world, because there are so many things about our world that are very absurd, but we become so accustomed to them that it becomes hard to recognize them or see them. In this particular case, this film came about in an unusual set of circumstances, in the sense that the location came first and then the story.
Well, it would have been crazy to write a short film set in a location like that and then try and find one.
Yeah. So during the pandemic, this luxury department store in France called the Galeries Lafayette started a partnership with our production company. And by ours, I mean the production company with whom we work in France, called Messia Films. And they started inviting artists and performers to do very small little interventions during the night while the store was closed to the public. And they loved it so much that even after the stores reopened to the world, they decided to continue it. And
so they approached us and asked us if we had any ideas for something we would like to film in the department store. And it was during the meeting that we started talking about ways that we could twist the world just to make it our world, but also thinking about the department. It's a very ritualistic space related to consumption, but consumption of goods that sort of demonstrate your wealth and your power, and also your beauty. Because even though there are things for men and women in department stores, it's a very feminine space, and it's ironically a kind of space where at the age in which you can afford something in the store without having a heart attack is the age in which your beauty is also starting to fade a little bit. And there's this sort of like beautiful, sad kind of sort of like paradox there. And so it was a very charged space, and it was during the meeting.
Yeah, we started ping-ponging ideas, which is how we work. And then Alex threw out, we knew we wanted to subvert the rules of the space, and Alex threw out, what if it was set in a world where people paid for things by being slapped in the face? And of course, there was a lot of nervous laughter, and I immediately saw how we like the potential of the idea, and so we were told basically like write a treatment, write a first version, and let's take it from there. And I have to say the script because we were so influenced when we were writing, we're always being influenced by what's happening in the world. And like now in late 2022, there were many things in the news that were deeply disturbing, including, just sort of like the rise of like autocracies around the world, as well as like here at home, and the return of like so many things that felt like they were in the past, like the Don't Say Gay law in Florida, but then also in Iran there was the women's movement, the Women Life Freedom movement, which was both very inspiring and also really deeply disturbing, because you have all of the youth, like this new generation being shot at and maimed and killed for taking off their hijabs. And so there were so many things that felt very absurd, and also like there was so much violence that we were consuming, like through Instagram and various platforms, where it felt like violence was sort of like the norm. And so that sort of fed into the script, and it became much darker as we added this layer of kissing being forbidden in this world, that I was really surprised when we got greenlit. And it's been a magical journey in the sense that like people have really gone behind our sort of crazy ideas.
Well, I think and the creation of this dystopian world is so fascinating. I mean, in the film, it kind of unfolds before you slowly. I remember watching, feeling like impatient to know this world and the rules within it. But that combination of the casual violence paired with a world where there's such lack of intimacy, the one thing that maybe is the respite that people need to survive a repressive society, is so horrifying and tragic, and yet there's so much beauty in this world and the way that it's shot as well. Can you share a little bit more about this pairing of the beautiful and the horrific together? I think it's so present in the script, but in the visuals, all of it is working together and kind of feeding into each other. Share a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, just as a small aside, that like we didn't know this as we were writing it, but there have been so many moments in our own history where like this has almost been the case or already been the case, where like, in 1970s Brazil, we were speaking with another filmmaker, a Brazilian filmmaker, we didn't realize that there was a law that was passed that forbid people from kissing in public. And the Brazilians took to the streets and they were like, absolutely not. And there was a sort of mass demonstration of people kissing on the streets. And so the law was revoked. But, it's really like the world of the film feels very absurd, but it's really not so far from our lived reality.
We talk a lot about our experience of life is that the horrific and the ridiculous kind of coexist in the same breath. I mean, it's something you see in Shakespeare's work, comedy and tragedy, all sort of interwoven. And in some ways, the formal beauty of the film is, in a sense, related to the way that the actors perform the characters, in the sense that they live in this world as if it was a completely grounded reality. And so we've filmed this world using two different sort of visual languages. Within the store, it's a very cold, formal camera that is very static and moves very little to accentuate the authoritarian lines of the building. And we're often shooting into mirrors. I don't know if you noticed, but in almost every single scene, apart from the ravine at the end, there is a mirror. The character is either looking into a mirror or we are observing them through a mirror, which gives a sense of, to me, always a sense of unease, as if you're spying on somebody. And then that's paired with a sort of more nervous, frenetic energy when we're outside of the store and we're handheld. And so that kind of formal rigor is I think it accentuates the.
I think for us it was very character led. So I mean, the world of the store is very much Angin's world. It's a very controlled, aesthetically forward world. That then when we're outside, we're oftentimes in the perspective of Malaise, and it's you're also in a place where you're in the real world. The possibility of being taken is much higher, and so there's this element of danger. But it's also the energy of Malaise, which is much freer. So for us, there was a sort of like symbolic, reasoning behind the camera work itself. And then in terms of like the pace at which things unfold, we really live by the motto of like show, don't tell. And so everything is meant to be discovered by the viewer. And we really treat the viewer as like an incredibly intelligent, because they are. The audience of film
they've had 100 years more watching films.
I mean, not just that, but like we become readers of film very early on. Like we all are exposed to film from a very young age, and so the audience is smart. So we just we lay it out there, and it's up to them to do the math.
Yeah, that kind of unfurling process as the story kind of like reveals itself to you is so satisfying, because you're getting information and then the meaning only comes later, and it's beautifully paced, and it's just so satisfying to kind of watch that unfold in that very methodical, patient manner. The other thing that I was really struck by and love that this film does is it's in black and white. And I think that it's so visually striking, and it enhances a lot of those stark contrasts that you were just talking about between the store and the outside world. So can you share a little bit more about kind of the heart and intention behind that, and how you came to the decision to make it black and white?
Well, I think we knew as soon as we started writing it that it was going to be in black and white for a mixture of reasons, some of which are conceptual, emotional reasons related to the story, and others are almost the practical constraints of making a short film. In terms of the conceptual reasons, there's something about when you shoot in black and white that shows things how they actually are. I think as human beings, we're very distracted by color. Color attracts us, but also distracts us. And when you remove color from, especially an environment or somebody's face, you kind of see them as they really are. And in a building like the department store, which originally was a bank, when you strip out color, you can see the original architecture, these sort of columns, the hexagonal lobby. We're very inspired by Wim Wenders' film Wings of Desire, which has a really iconic scene in the library where the angels are listening to people's thoughts. And it was a location that we'd always loved and were very curious about, and did a lot of research on the internet to look at what it actually looks like. And in color, it's still very interesting, but it doesn't have that sort of
the geometry. I mean, we think of black and white as sort of like an X-ray, like it shows you the bones of something. And so it really reinforces the structure of this store, and which renders it much more autocratic than like if you saw it in color, because in color, it's like a cacophony of different like visual things that are coming at you. And so it also like focuses our attention also on the characters a lot. And then, for us, I mean, we were shooting in the middle of the night. So, the store is open every day of the week, and we had very little time to set up and to take down what we were like, the interventions that we were making into the space. So rendering the film black and white made it, allowed us to like have our own visual imprint, but also to like control the image. And then there's an element, I don't think that we thought about this from the get-go, but there's a sort of like box upon box layering in the film that is much more evident in black and white from like there are parts of the store that have this like sort of geometric box-like structure. And then you have the boxes or the squares in the black and white dress. And then of course the coffins, the cardboard boxes that are designed by our main character's husband, which you see again and again in the film. And so there is this element that was not planned, but it's sort of brought to the foreground by the black and white.
There's such beauty when you start filming and photographing in black and white. That's very hard to imagine.
Addictive.
It's very hard to imagine filming in color afterwards, which kind of almost like turns the question around, which you always want to ask a filmmaker. So why did you decide to shoot in color when you could just have shot in black and white?
Black and white is very seductive once you start working in it. The problem, of course, is that there are a lot of places in the world that won't distribute a black and white film, which is very sad.
In 2025.
But I'm really
What about 3D?
I don't know.
Has anyone ever made a 3D black and white film?
I don't know. I mean, we can make
There you go.
Crack something new.
That might be a next big idea. Next big innovation.
I would love to see Angine's face, like giant, right? I think that would be pretty magical.
When the hand comes to slap you and it reaches out to the cinema screen.
The hand in the
we might be onto something here. We do believe in making really bold decisions.
That's true.
Safe 3D. Well, there's also this interesting meta layer of a world devoid of color that is reflective of the state of the repressive society that our characters are living in as well. Like, to imagine having to be in society without affection is stripped of the thing that gives it life, that gives it that full emotion and color. And we see these three women existing in this repressive society and kind of reacting in very different ways to the systems and powers that be. There's one that seems to have found some sort of comfort and status within it. There's one that is breaking free from it. And there's one that's almost upholding those systems. Can you share about the way that you've written these three women and their characters and the ways they kind of collide with each other throughout the film as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we think about it as a sort of love triangle, even though I don't think that everyone understands the sort of that element. I think that most people think of it as more of a straight, or like more as a professional jealousy rather than also a romantic layer. But it is, the story of these three women who also are from three different generations. And like you said, they very much like respond to the repression of this world in different ways. And, there's a sort of like the trend of like the way that people become conservative more and more in life is sort of mirrored in the characters. So you have Petulante, who is sort of like matronly, worker in the store who has been there forever. And I think for her, it's really like she has been upholding these rules, absurd rules for so long that to break with them would be almost a betrayal to herself and everything that she's experienced. And then there's also, I think, one of the things that happens is that, the character of Angine, who is a sort of like in between, she upholds these rules, but she knows that something is wrong.
She's comfortable. I mean, it's very interesting that you talk about the black and white and the yearning and what's missing. Because you think about a character like Angine, the main character, she lives in this gorgeous apartment with this beautiful furniture and everything's very elegant, but it is lifeless. It's lifeless because it's cold and modern, but it's also lifeless because it's black and white, and the food that she eats, which is onions, admittedly, white onions. But there's there's a lack of a
lack of joy,
and a yearning for touch. I think the film for us is made up of those moments of when Malaise puts the necklace around Angine's neck, and they're just a little bit closer to each other. And you can almost feel yourself, like the heat and the breath of the other person close to the other. And I think that's also what Petulante is yearning for.
I think that I think that she is suppressing her own feelings because she recognizes that need. She just she's been doing this for so long that she doesn't know really how to live any other way. And I think jealousy is at the root of a lot of her actions. Malaise, who's the youngest character and also the freest, for us, represents a lot of these young people that were fighting on the streets. It's always, you know, the students at Columbia. It's always the youth that are putting themselves in danger the most. It's you know, whether it's like they haven't really understood you know, their mortality, or they don't yet have a family that they have to protect, or whatever it is. But you know, the youth is always at the forefront of these fights.
In some ways, a young person is, because we sometimes talk about when you make an absurdist film, it's almost like you're presenting planet Earth to an alien. And you're saying, on planet Earth, people go into shops and they wave little plastic cards at one another, and people say, okay, that's 1,000. Then here you can have this little leather bag made out of the skin of a cow. You know, these kind of things that seem strange to us. But when you have a child, you are bringing an alien to planet Earth. And you have to explain to them that, no, you can't have everything that you want. You need to have invisible units on your plastic, little piece of plastic. But very quickly, people habituate themselves to these things. And so our characters, like Angine, have habituated themselves to how things are. And I think Malaise, as someone younger, just hasn't been ground down by life yet.
Yeah. I mean, my family comes from communist Romania. And one of the reasons that I speak French was that they went to France in exile before they came to the US. And, you know, a lot of the stories that they told me about their life growing up just sounded so absurd. And there are many Romanian filmmakers that have made, you know, absurdist films about communist Romania, including there's a great you know, sort of compilation of short films called The Tales of the Golden Age, because as people were starving and waiting in lines, you know, 4-hour-long lines to buy chicken feet from the grocer, because all of the chickens were being exported to the US, you know, the dictator was spouting that like Romania was living through a golden age. And so there's this, like, you know,
as we are today, aren't we living in a golden age? Apparently, I was told that.
Yeah. So yes. I mean, there's always the absurd and the horrific live side by side in autocratic regimes, oftentimes.
And you see that, you feel that while watching the film. I think another component that really highlights that and you feel that repression is through the score. And I feel like the score adds so much to this film. So can you share a little bit about what that process was like and what it was like to get a score that aligns so perfectly to this film?
Yeah, I mean, we worked a lot. We love score. It's very un-European of us because yes. the French don't always love score.
Nor voiceover.
Nor voiceover. There was a lot of fighting about that. But we thought of the whole film almost as one musical composition, and so oftentimes we talk about it almost like an accordion. So there are moments of like of quiet, and then there are moments of like, you know, sort of like expansive music, and you know, the accordion goes in and out. But yeah, half of the score is composed by Babak Lotfipur, who is an amazing composer, half Iranian, half Mexican, and it was such a joy to work with him. He came pretty early on, and we worked really closely to sort of, because it was really important for us to sort of match the music to the picture. And then the other half was music that we had actually written to and had sort of had lived in us as we were coming up with this crazy world.
Especially the Caroline Shaw piece, which closes the film. That's something we wrote to and we're very much thinking of.
I mean, even the whole film is storyboarded. So, and not just storyboarded, we did an animation of the film before we shot. And so, like, you know, like beat by beat, there are certain scenes that are a one-to-one match of what we had planned and with the music and
we
everything.
thought a lot about a score that uses discordant classical music that's kind of, in some ways, draws a little bit on the Baroque era, a little bit from the 50s and 60s. So there's a Benjamin Britten piece in there, there's Bela Bartok, and then also newer composers like I think Ryan Lott and Caroline Shaw, like post-classical, almost like post-classical meets contemporary electronica, as it were, but always looking for those kind of like discordant discordant moving into beautiful,
like beautiful and romantic,
which is kind of like what the film is about. It's
Yeah.
about, you know, people with ugly Gallic breath, and then people,
and bruised faces
wanting to really yearn and kiss one another, and since that kind of like tension is there in the film itself. And we really love score. We really like it when score makes a strong choice, like not just like underscoring, and you don't like. Sometimes people talk about editing in the sense about films that a great editor, you never think about the editing. And someone might say that about score. I don't think I think we disagree. For us, like we want you to be thinking about the score as a character.
Yeah. I don't even think we listen to regular music anymore. We just listen to scores. Like, I don't know what's happening in the music world, but I do know every composer that's working today.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely important to us.
Yeah.
And it's incredible the way that score is so aligned to a moment. There's sometimes like musical motifs or drops that will be aligned to like a glance or a moment where they touch, and the score rushes in with this warmth. It's incredible. I also joked with Sarah that violin pizzicato is going to haunt me in my dreams. It's so well done to create that unease. One of the other choices that I think helps a film work as well as it does is the voiceover. And you mentioned earlier there was some argument about it, but there's something that's so emotional about what's unspoken, about the things that are being said in the voiceover. The amounts that Angine is purchasing over time is a reflection of desire, but it's so matter of fact, which is also in the title as well. So can you tell me your process of creating this voiceover that actually adds so much to the film? And sometimes voiceovers don't, and this one really actually feels so essential to the film working as well as it does.
Yeah, I mean, we wrote the film with the voiceover, so it always felt essential to us. And we, unlike certain film people, we love voiceover. We always marvel. It can definitely go wrong. It's just, it is included in so many of like so many great works of art, like Barry Lyndon and almost every Coen brother film. And, it just always astounds me that people feel so negative towards it, because it is actually pretty, or like Joachim Trier's new film, Sentimental Value. Like it's actually really quite common. But the French are very against it, and we received a lot of feedback.
But we should talk about what our intentions were with the voiceover.
Sure. I mean,
I think the voiceover is kind of like, we talk often about an omniscient, godlike narrator, but for us, God is not a neutral narrator. God has a lot of ideas, a lot of demands of human beings. And as detached as God may like to be sometimes, God cares about these little characters crawling around on the earth. And so Vicky's narrator is a kind of cool, wry. I don't know if she's
opinionated.
She's opinionated, and she kind of draws and also she presages the suffering that's going to happen as she tells the story.
I mean, for us, I think the biggest thing was that it was a tonal thing.
Yeah.
Like we actually, the narrator gives no essential piece of information. You don't need it to understand the story.
Yeah.
But it does give you tonal, like it does set a certain tone for the film. And we actually edited the whole film without the voiceover. Like we had a version, the same film more or less, with the voiceover, and then another version without the voiceover, and both versions worked. It just felt so it felt violent to take it out. And of course, once Vicky came in to the project, our producers was like, of course there's a voiceover. There was always a voiceover. No, I mean, we have the best producers, but it is, it was a point of contention for a while. And
it's safer not to have voiceover.
Yeah.
Yes.
But and then of course,
I think it also very much helps give the fable-like quality. I think it's very important tonally, in the same way that score is very important tonally. I think the right voiceover, properly calibrated, is very tonally important.
Yeah.
And also in a short film is a great accelerant when you need to move the story forward a little bit faster, because time is crucial when you only have just 36 minutes. Yeah.
I think another thing that I'm just curious about with this film is, were there any like hiccups or roadblocks that you hit along the way? Like we've learned a lot of your story of like making it, but were there any kind of notable things where things went wrong? And then how did you kind of overcome those?
I mean, I would love
location.
I mean, yeah, I would love to hear about a film that doesn't have roadblocks
Right,
because it feels like it's part and parcel of like any film shoot.
Yes.
There's always, every film producer will be like, this is totally normal to lose your actor 2 days before a shoot.
Well,
we didn't. We
lost 5 script supervisors.
Yeah, we did. But then our last script supervisor who worked on our film was brilliant.
Yes. And she's
really,
also a director.
She's a director.
She just released her feature, which is called, in France, Preuve d'amour, and in English it's called Love Letters. Which
it's also a love story between two women who are about to set off on an adventure of having a child. Not a dystopic film, but it is a beautiful film.
All of which is to say that there are many, many hiccups, and sometimes those hiccups result in.
But for instance, one, to give you an example, is on our last day shooting in the luxury department store. Just as we were starting to feel comfortable, we're like, we're gonna make it. We're gonna get everything.
The luxury department store is on the Champs-Élysées. There's no it's like being on Fifth Avenue. You don't forget that you're going there every single day. It's on the Champs-Élysées.
But somehow everyone on our team did forget that the last night that we were shooting was the day.
It was the 10th of November going into the 11th of November. And the 11th of the 11th is Armistice Day. And in France, there's a huge parade on
the Champs-Élysées.
And they closed off all the and the police were like, all of your trucks have to go right now.
And we were like, we had not yet shot the embrace.
The scene, the dream when they kiss one another. You know, the kind of scene that you just rush, when you ask your actresses to like tenderly embrace and kiss one another.
Quickly embrace each other.
Just get all of that. Just give me, I need those goosebumps quick.
Yeah. And so it was like it was the last thing we were set to shoot. And we were, like building up towards this moment. And then suddenly we're like, all right, we've got 5 minutes to shoot this thing.
And our cinematographer, Alexandra, bless her heart, was like, I had always imagined for this scene that we would use a little smoke, to create that kind, because DPs love smoke. I don't know if you ever spoke to a cinematographer. They love smoke.
And we're like, no smoke.
The problem about smoke is that smoke always sets off a fire alarm somewhere. And so when you only have, we had 15, 20 minutes to shoot this scene, we were like, no, it's going to be no smoke.
Yeah, one take, just, go.
And then the other thing I would say is we didn't have the location of the ravine until 9/10 of the way through the shoot.
Yeah.
So on the last weekend, we locked down the ravine because there was a lot of negotiating.
There was really only one place to shoot that scene. And actually the ravine looks exactly as we had imagined it. But there aren't that many places with that kind of landscape that are an hour outside of Paris. Because we couldn't move to another side of France where we needed it to be somewhere where we could drive that morning and arrive. And so, the week, because we do love preparation and we're really big planners. The weekend before we went to visit it and we sort of planned.
On Sunday.
We're shooting on Monday.
So we scanned the whole ravine, which is huge.
Yeah.
Stitched together a gigantic 3D model, placed all the boxes virtually, put the van, made basically an animation of the film in one day. So that on Monday we could turn up with a pre-visualization of the scene.
Yeah, and the idea was that when we got on set, the boxes would already be placed there.
We sent a map saying this box will be here, this box will be there, and we turn up and there are no boxes.
And so the boxes arrive after us, or they're starting to be moved in, and we are supposed to have camera up, and so we're just I'm just lugging these boxes, these giant boxes, like a mad woman. The set photos of me with the boxes, I look like a crazy person. But our whole team, everyone, no matter what department, was just carrying around hundreds of boxes, putting them where but it actually did look like the model, but
I think it worked well because we knew where the camera would be on what lens because we had planned it. And therefore, when things went wrong like that, we weren't worrying about where the camera should be. That was already set.
Yeah.
And the same is true, I think, for the performances with the actors. So much of the time, the camera, we knew where the camera would be, we knew what lens it would be, and therefore we could be very present with the actors. So even though that day was a little bit chaotic at the beginning, and it was raining, it actually was one of the most emotionally powerful moments of the shoot, because it was our last day of shooting.
Yeah.
And Angine, played by Zara Mir, is wandering about this ravine, and suddenly, it stops being boxers, and it becomes, in the, not just for the person viewing the film, but for the people shooting the film, it becomes that place.
Yeah.
And she becomes so overwhelmed with emotion, and she starts crying in the middle of the take, which is captured.
Our whole team starts crying as well. I mean, the film, there's a lot of elements to it that are very playful, but as we've been saying from the beginning, so much of it is drawn from life. And one of the reasons that we cast Zara Amir was because we didn't know, we knew her first as an actress, and then when we fell in love with her, we started reading about her backstory, and she is living in France in exile precisely because of something that happened to her that is not so different than what happens in the film, which is that this intimate tape of hers was leaked to the press, and she was put on trial and interrogated for months and tortured. And eventually, right before her sentencing, she fled to France and has been living there ever since. And so for Zara, I mean, when she read the script, she was like, I know what this world is. Like, I see the parallels. I understand who this character is. And so whenever we were shooting with her, like, we had already talked a lot about who Angine is, but once we got on set, there were very few times where we had to like sort of get her anywhere, because she understood the stakes and what it meant to live in that world. And so, yeah, I mean, it was a really powerful, I mean, so many of the things were so in the making of the film were so beautiful, even amongst the chaos.
As fellow planners, both Sarah and I, it's satisfying when you see it pay off, the renderings of the boxes helped ensure that when you had to do it on the fly, you knew exactly where it was placed. And I have to say, one of the most beautiful ravines filled with coffins that I've ever seen in my life, which is a ridiculous statement, but maybe fitting for the film. It's clear, I think, that both Sarah and I are huge fans of Two People Exchanging Saliva. I have to say, there's always, if I'm lucky, 1 to 2 films in a year that absolutely like blow my mind and expand my mind in what this medium is able to do. And Two People Exchanging Saliva was that film for me in this past year. So this is absolutely incredible. I think there's so much emotion that is in this film that is unspoken, and it's so much more emotional because it's brimming beneath the surface, and you really go on this whole journey with these two characters. I'm excited for more people to experience this film. It's actually very exciting to also see a lot of the younger generation discover and buy into this film as well, and get excited about this medium again too. So where can people watch Two People Exchanging Saliva, and what are ways that folks that are excited to buy into and follow and support this film, how can they really follow this journey with you guys?
Yeah, so the film is available. It's distributed by the New Yorker worldwide, so people can watch it on the New Yorker's site as well as for free, as well as their YouTube channel.
Also for free.
And in France and Switzerland, it's distributed by Canal+. And then we have a website, twopeopleexchangingsaliva.com, where you can watch a lot of interviews with us.
We just released today a documentaries.
A 10-minute behind-the-scenes look
about our research process and
how we made it.
Yes.
And then obviously follow our socials, which is also Two People Exchanging Saliva. And
also maybe one day we made some T-shirts. Which we're thinking about trying to find a way for people to be able to buy.
Well, we made them for our team, and someone, a few people wore them to one of our parties, and then it, on social media, other people saw them, and so now the t-shirts, there are a lot of people that want our T-shirts.
One of the T-shirts made its way to French icon Catherine Deneuve, who has been wearing it around town, and the T-shirt are the narrator introducing each of the three characters. So her name was Angine, and one of her legs was longer than the other. Her name was Petulant. It was not her first day. And her name was Malaise. She was 24 years old.
Yeah. And but all of the updates usually come first on our socials. So that's the best way.
Yeah.
And thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you both. And we will include all of those links in the show notes so that people can watch this amazing film and support it. But yeah, thank you both for being here. Is there anything else that you want to share? Any other thoughts about the film or this whole process that you'd like to share with us?
Just that it's been a really magical journey for us, and that we never, if someone had told us a couple of years ago when we started all of this that we would be here, we really, really would not believe them. And
it's also very, when you're sitting at home on the couch and you're writing something and it kind of touches you and it sort of transports you emotionally, and then 6, 8 months, 18 months later, that moment connects with another person. It's a very beautiful, tender kind of experience. And it's not, in a sense, it's not because we wrote something and therefore we made someone feel something. I think it's because we're both feeling the same thing, if that makes sense. That's kind of what's beautiful about filmmaking and art, is that we're both the filmmakers and also the audience kind of like remind ourselves of some of the parts of what it means to be alive, and those parts that we're not able to articulate every day, that we kind of that is, and so that's kind of what this film was about. And having it connect to people that way has been incredibly rewarding.
Yeah.
That experience, Alex, that you're describing is had by so many. I think for me, it's like, gosh, the joy and the freedom of affection is incredible. What a blessing it is. And for those things that seem absurd in the film, it really gives you a fresh set of eyes on the things in our actual real lived world that we need to look to change, and to say that is absurd and is not okay, and really a call to action to reform and to change things for better. So thank you so much for joining and having this conversation with us. We're so grateful. We're truly so grateful, and we can't wait for more people to watch Two People Exchanging Saliva and experience it for themselves.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We'll be back here on the feed with new content coming soon here. But in the meantime, we're including all those links in the show notes for where you can watch this film and experience it for yourself. And we can't wait to hear all of everyone's thoughts about it. All right. Thank you all, and goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Movies and Us. We are part of the Movie Archer podcast network, so check out moviearcher.com to learn more.
Our name sums it up. We're all about movies and the powerful ways we can connect with each other and the world around us. This podcast is about all of us and our shared stories.
You can subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you tune into your favorite shows. Drop us a rating review, letting us know your thoughts about today's episode.
Connect with us on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at MoviesandUsPod, or email us at moviesandUsPod@gmail.com. Check out our website, andusmedia.co, for the latest on Movies and Us and our other podcast, TV and Us.
We hope you have an amazing week, and we can't wait to see y'all very soon.